and publish it. So we may not be able to take your questions live, but keep them coming. We will try to address those questions next time we speak. I hope you enjoyed this show today. We are covering a lot of topics and can get started. So welcome, guys. We know from Java and Bhargavi from Java, obviously, as well. Welcome back to Freewheeling.
Hey, thanks, for doing it for the first time recorded. Feels different. Let's see how that turns out, when we actually see the live one. Exciting.
Yeah.
But we want to bring some discipline to doing this. That's why we're doing recorded, in ourselves, frankly. Freewheeling is becoming a little bit of, recorded freewheeling now. That's all. No change. I think we are all free to talk, what we want to talk. Yeah, frankly. Yes.
Yeah. Karthik, welcome back to Freewheeling.
Hi, thank you very much. I saw you guys doing it last time on my big screen TV, and I was super excited. The quality was amazing, and it's beautiful. So there's no reason why we should not be doing this more often. And couldn't agree with you more, Vinod, on the discipline part. And I'm glad we're actually doing this.
Hmm.
All right.
Okay, so what is the first topic?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first topic is obviously on everybody's mind, right? Now that we are deep into the year, and in fact, we're towards the end of the year already, right? And everybody is talking about the funding winter. What's happening in Indian startup ecosystem? Is the funding winter truly here? And what's going to happen, right? So that's going to be our first topic.
Yeah, I think that has been our topic since the last three freewheeling now, I think. Can't hide from this now.
I think the winter is just getting colder. That's all it feels like. And the temperatures also have gone down in Bangalore, Karthik. So maybe the winter is also just, not felt intellectually, financially. It's also feeling on the skin, literally,
Yeah.
in Bangalore. Winters there. I think we've been telling the winters have arrived long ago. I think the new factor that's coming in is this recession, which the US is like almost near certain, looks like, and funding winter combined with this recession and, Fed rates all put together seems like some kind of cataclysmic action, eventually looks like, we don't know when that will hit, right? So, I mean, everybody whom we meet really ask this, but now morning I was reading, ET, and I think India's chief economic advisor. He talks about something called some poly chain kind of a problem, which says that too many unpredictables put into this together. So he says it's really hard to predict for economists. And first of all, economists can predict or not. That's something that I already have a doubt. But with all this, right? It seems like nothing can be predicted, frankly. I mean, that's the view, right? We are like in a massively uncertain world, or like for the next 18 to 24 months. I think that's where we are, unknown unknowns. I think that's where the phase we are, largely. Yeah.
Last time, I think when we did the freewheeling, we said that it looks like the recession is not going to be like V curve or a U curve, right? It's going to be like a flat out long term. Now, I think in the last 3 weeks, it has become more obvious that everybody is now predicting that it's going to take 18 months of slow. The cash should get out of the system, whatever has been pumped in the last 10 years. The currency that has got printed in the last 3 years by all countries. So it's going to take 18, some people are saying it could take 3 years also, right? So then it becomes really tricky. It's going to, if the recovery is going to take 3 years, then I think it's going to be a tough time for the startup ecosystem, because typically our run rates are 18 months or 24 months, right, in general.
Yeah, you can see consolidation already, Bhargavi. Morning news about PhonePe going for Zest, right, is actually clear consolidation, right? It's a consumer startup, lending startup. So a bigger player acquiring. So consolidation is the real key. Yeah, yeah.
All right. I think I agree with all of the points that you guys are talking about, right? But I also wanted to ensure that people know that this is not all doom and gloom, right? There's an article that I just put in Business World just last week, right? Where we actually talk about that part here, right? Is this really all gloom and doom? So when we look at the numbers, right, it looks like it's painting a different picture. And there's a reason why it's looking a little bit different, right? Obviously, it took a little bit of time for the reality to kick in and for the investments to go down a little bit, right? But all things said and done, we haven't done terribly badly, right, in this year so far. Some of the numbers that I looked at, especially in the early stage, right? I'm not able to see the image here, but what struck me was the Series A investments, right? Broadly held up. Seed and pre-seed investments broadly held up, so comparable to last year, right, to 2021, and definitely higher than the 2020 levels, right? So there is plenty of activity still in the startup ecosystem. It's just that it's getting a little bit concentrated in the familiar territories of early stage and pre-seed and seed stage, right? And another surprising statistic that I found was the quantum of fundraise in seeds has gone up from somewhere around 875K in 2021 to almost 1.23 million in 2022, right? This is also an indication for people, both the founders and the investors, ensuring there is enough liquidity for the company that they're investing so that they can ride out the next 24 months, anticipating this funding winter, right? It's definitely not all doom and gloom, but I also argue in this article about how we reached this particular stage, right? For all intents and purposes, last year was a very unusual sort of a year where we've seen tremendous amount of funding coming into the ecosystem, which is riding on some of the macroeconomic conditions, right? Especially the quantitative easing that has been unleashed in the U.S. More than $6 trillion has been let into the system. All that money had to go somewhere. With tech stocks being so expensive last year, obviously some of it has made it to India, and we've seen inflation in valuations here, right? But from here on, we're going to see tapering of that. We will see more um, correction in the valuations. We talked about a bunch of different things in this article, which led to the situation and what it is going to look like going forward, right? I just want to leave this topic on an optimistic note. If you are a founder listening to this show, right? I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. There is plenty of capital still available. Almost, by some estimates, about 12 to 16 billion dollars of dry powder is there. So investors will have to deploy that money. They will deploy it, but it will be at a slower pace. There will be more diligence on the companies. They'll be looking at more stronger fundamentals in companies before they make the decision. So you need to ensure that you are one of those startups that can actually mop up that kind of funds, right? So the ecosystem is not going back to where we were like 7 or 8 years ago. It's just that there's a little bit of moderation coming in this year and maybe potentially in 2024 as well.
Yeah, I think absolutely, Karthik. I think good companies will still continue to raise capital. It's just that if it was easier for founders to raise seed, let's say if it took them a month to raise seed previously, maybe it may take longer. And it could also become a validation for some of the ideas, right? If you're not getting that capital or investor support, if that becomes inherent for your business, like consumer businesses, then maybe it's time for you to rethink. I think we are seeing founders already doing that when they are trying to talk to investors and not raising capital. They are rethinking, which is actually good because you're going to save time.
Yeah, very much. So what we'll do is we'll put this link up on the description so you guys can go and check it out, what we are arguing here. With that, I think let's wrap this topic up and move on to the next one.
What have we got next? Karthik, I mean, we are talking some really interesting stuff or some boring stuff.
We are talking about something very interesting, Vinod. I think this is going to catch Bhargavi by surprise. We're going to be discussing about Chaebol. Have you heard of that word, Bhargavi? Chaebol?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Is it like cabal, Karthik? Similar? Chabal is similar to a cabal, which we keep hearing in the VC ecosystem, the rest of the world.
Oh, okay. The production system. Okay.
So this is, I think there's a little bit of echo. But this is more like a type of economy where it is dominated by a fab group of companies,
Conglomerates.
right? Who control the conglomerates. This is very prevalent in South Korea.
Yeah.
So the question that we're trying to ask here is India heading towards something like that, right? Again, the staggering statistic in South Korean economy, right, is the top 10 companies in terms of the revenue, right? They make up more than 60 to 70% of the GDP of the country, which is shocking, right? A country which is as advanced as South Korea, which is probably 12th or 13th largest economy in the world, and it's controlled by just these 10 families in terms of the economic output. When we see some news like the one that we saw earlier, right, where Tata is looking to acquire Bisleri for 7,000 crores. And then we have another piece of news where Paytm got impacted in terms of the stock price as soon as Reliance has announced Geo Financial Services, right? So are we also heading towards a new Indian Chaebol, if you will, right? Is this the future of India? And should we be concerned if this is going to be the future of our Indian economy?
See, I'll tell you something interesting which we observed when I was in FMCG. This is a phenomenon which is not just true for countries. There is a very popular FMCG ownership map on top companies globally. We can Google and we should be able to find it. So you will see this pattern through even globally, where there is a lot of inter-brand holdings, intercompany holdings, and at the end it will be somebody like a L'Oreal, PNG, and HUL uh, holding equity and driving the market if they need to. So this is true even in certain, not economies, industries, and probably it's true in automobiles as well. So I think it's not a country specific factor alone. Um, and I would actually think would be interesting to do something similar even for North America, which is supposed to be a developed, more open economy, right? To see whether there are any trends like this there. Because in India, we had the license start system, and some of these families were the only people had the license to set up industries 70 years back, right? So I think the we are still having some of the legacy things coming up now, like the Birlas, the Tatas, who had the license. So I think it's a factor of that.
So going back to the North American thing, right? I also looked at how much of the American economy is contributed to by some of these larger companies, right? So it took like the top 500 companies in terms of the revenue, right, to come to the same 50%, 60% of the American economy, right? Which is, I think it's a healthy balance, right? You have 50% being contributed to by SMEs and the other 50% being contributed to by these large companies, the Apples and the Googles and the other tech giants of the country, right? But when you look at Indian situation per se, right? One argument that people are making is it's let's take the sectors that are important for the economy as a whole. If you take transportation or power as a sector, right? And then enable the conditions for these large conglomerates, which are the ones who are able to raise equity, right? And have them deploy investment on large scale so that they can benefit from the economies of scale.
Karthik, it could be that, because we've seen one wave of infrastructure where a lot of companies failed, right? Also, that was the boom between when the Bangalore airport and Hyderabad airport and all were constructed, right, between 2004 to 2008, right, we had a massive boom, and that's when the GMRs of the world and Navayugas of the world, Simplexes of the world, all,
GDPs. Yeah.
massive play into infrastructure. I think that probably gave a lesson. Maybe somebody is following it intuitively or consciously or unconsciously, right? Maybe there's a lesson, and they've just gone the other way. Now it's there are only a couple of large groups controlling infrastructure, big ones, in a way, across the country, right? Maybe you never know if this experiment works or not, in the long run. And also, right, if you look at companies that get controlled even in the North America, right, eventually all of it is owned by these large index funds, man, literally everybody. So who owns the index funds? It's largely retail and pension funds and those likes, which is owned again by people. I mean, roundabout round in North America, it seems to be like eventually the last person controlling it seems to be the individual, who's contributing to pension and the likes. In India's case, it seems to be the shareholding is slightly away from the Indian public, or it's a little skewed towards individuals, duopolies, and pseudo monopolies to an extent. I think it's a part of evolution, I would assume. At some point, these things and these trappings also will start breaking. Maybe not now. Maybe it'll take a decade. And
Maybe
also
more.
maybe and also
This is effect of 70 years, right? I think I will not be surprised if it takes 20 years to undo
yeah.
this.
And also political equations also have an influence, right? I mean, not only in India, you take Indonesia, it's controlled by a bunch of families. That's what I hear, right? Even in Southeast Asia, Thailand is again driven by families. If you want to set up business, you have to get blessings of those families, apparently, right? So I think it exists across the world in different forms, including Japan, I'm assuming, right, to a large extent, consolidated large conglomerates. I think it is falling, into a similar pattern. Will it break and become like North America? We'll have to wait and watch. I think it's good for now. We have good things going, and at least our Indian economy winter doesn't seem to be in sight, which is a great thing for all of us. Let's hope we just have more sun, and global money is going to be dried out. It's an interesting experiment. I also see, right, like, okay, what happens now if we don't have global money? What do we do? What really will we continue to plow at the same pace, or are we going to, like, okay, take a break, let the world come back, we'll come back, or we going to become a leader and say, look, I will pull the economy out? It could bring out some interesting contrarian views on, can India become a superpower, or is it a superpower, or is it a regional superpower? I think this phase will kind of show, because Europe is down, North America is down, Russia is down. Who else is left, guys? Only
And
China
our
and India.
Nifty is at all-time high. So
And China is still strangling people for COVID. 31,000 cases, apparently. Foxconn, God only knows what's happening in the news today.
something else is happening. Maybe we don't know.
Something else is happening.
No, I think, look, Indian economy is more resilient mainly because we are not as globally um, connected as some of these other economies, right? We're not export dependent country
Correct.
like a China
I think
is.
we're fairly connected, right? Look, our oil bills will get hit if the global scenario changes. Our export is majorly US and Europe, largely. That will get hit, and UAE, Middle East to an extent. These are our three markets, right?
No, that's
Uh,
already showing, I think the exports have already slowed down. If you look at the
Correct.
latest data, right, I think it's significantly slowed compared to previous quarter of last year.
Yeah.
Right, but besides that, majority of the 3 trillion plus economy, right, most of it is driven by the domestic consumption, which I think is
Consumption.
still healthy.
And I
It
think
Uh,
our
in, in,
energy is also right. I think we are not a country which ever dependent on concentrated energy sourcing. I think we fairly distributed it across different countries. That's probably one smart thing which opened up, right, in the last 20 years or so. And that is now coming in handy maybe for us when, because of energy prices, like there is no heater in Europe, right? And it is real. Like I have a neighbor who came back a couple of weeks back, and I was so surprised to hear that, because these are not people who are economically downtrodden, right? These are people well off, and they are saying it is real. We don't have heaters.
No, it's also another thing. Interestingly, I was reading Bhargavi in climate change linked to what's happening in Europe, right? See, Europe moved away from all the fossil fuels to gas, and the gas was dependent on
Russia.
Russia, and the
Which
move for
came through Ukraine.
exactly, and the move for gas, right, was driven by wanting to achieve Kyoto protocols. So the Kyoto protocol moved them to gas and made them insecure, so they can't go back to fossil fuels in a way. So, in a way, look, if you look at it from an evil person's point of view, right? Look, Russia played the game well. They knew what the climate change angle is, and no energy diversification in Europe. Everybody was dependent on gas, and they are just getting screwed. Frankly, that's what's going to happen this winter.
Yeah, and it's very sad actually because winters there are really life threatening, right? Sometimes it could go to that level.
Yeah, I think we've had enough of global macros, Karthik, and frankly, more than the Holland guys discussed US macros. I think we've covered global macros, and
Yeah, Vinod, I think let's go to some positive news coming from the startup ecosystem from India, right? Um,
oh yeah, lay out some videos of some things going up and down.
yeah,
Yeah,
there are things that have gone up and not down only. And let's start
Only
with
going up, no down. That's what Karthik you also said.
very correct. Yes, yes.
yeah,
So, let's start with the stuff that has come out of our own portfolio. Um, okay, all right. So here you go, Vinod. Why don't you talk a little bit about this?
No, I think this is exciting stuff, Karthik. So, Agni tested its engine at ISRO's facility. They fired it, I think, for some time, and it's been successful. ISRO also has kind of validated that, which is super interesting because developing engines fresh, right? And a semi-cryo engine was never done in India. So I think it's like not just a simple test, I feel, right? They've done some new innovation, and this could potentially also be used by other players eventually. If the engine performs well, imagine you could start selling just the engine itself. Frankly speaking, to ISRO itself, ISRO has SSLV. You could put it in one of the upper stages potentially, or globally also, right? As and when this gets validated, right, there's a massive possibility this becomes sellable globally, and this could be a great story coming out of India for Atmanirbhar Bharat, or manufacturing in India in the defense space. Right? This is actually fantastic news. Yeah.
No, I think the innovation here is that this is all 3D printed. There are no screws. There's no welding or anything of the sort. This is amazing technology. Right? Why don't you just give a little bit of insight into how this is done?
Yeah, Agni's put up more pictures, frankly. So we've seen the engine. Me and Bhargavi visited the facility, right? So we have seen the engines getting printed. We've seen the actual engines also, right? Like thousands of parts, is reduced to just one part. I mean, what does it mean, right? Imagine the complexity of thousands of parts, coming together, chances of failure, precision machining, so many other issues, right? And if even one part fails, you are like, going to struggle, where the fault is. A single full piece, designed ground up, if capable of, reliability and ability to produce the thrust that's required, right? Is a great achievement. There are only a few companies, I think, in the world, were able to do kind of this kind of a possibility. So, yeah, in a way, Agni is done real innovation, and every week, we hear new news. And also, I think we should acknowledge, the competition, or in the market, Skyroot, healthy competition, obviously, right? Skyroot also launched its first test launch as a suborbital launch. They did that successfully, which is again, credit to them. I know it just opens up, a larger space community in India, especially the private space community in India. And it also shows one more very interesting thing, right? The government's committed to this cause, right? I think, which is even more important, right? without the government, right? A lot of people were complaining, saying, for example, I saw some lot Twitter messages saying, why weren't the founders, put up front into the table, while the press conference was happening at ISRO after this launch, right? And founders were sitting, obviously, behind. Look, end of the day, right? All knowledge, everything that's gathered for, it's coming through the Indian institutions, which is public money at some level. I think we should be okay with it as long as we are able to get to the private space and deploy it and generate a lot more jobs, a lot more growth, right? That's how I viewed it, optimistically. Yes, the founders could be put on the table. But look, I think, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's gone into all these space companies, which is, see, most of the space companies don't patent stuff simply because, it's knowledge which resides within. And all this knowledge is being shared proactively by the government. So we should be thankful. I think, this government has made it possible. We complain a lot, but I think in this case, I would do the other way, right? I think it's possible only because the government has been pretty open. Yes, space tech is reached. Yes, another interesting aspect I was telling, why it reached escape velocity, Karthik, since you put that up. So far, the bigger VCs, right, I've stayed away. But I noticed something interesting happening in Singapore from the top VC in the country, one of the top VCs in terms of AUM, doing a deep tech event for the first time, inviting all folks, right? So which speaks saying, they're feeling FOMO into some extent. They're trying to, feel the waters before they jump in and start swimming, which is good, more capital, more companies will come up, and we are happy that we are in some of them. Yeah.
Good. What next for Agnikul, Vinod, now?
See, I think basis whatever we've been gathering here, from both the team, we should expect to have a suborbital launch. Is it this year or is it like after in the coming quarter, in the first quarter? I think that's something up for grabs. We will wait for it, I think, but that's happening in the next 6 months is what is the clarity. So hopefully, we'll see that, and hopefully we can go and see that at Sriharikota. But Bhargavi,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you will not be able to come. We'll tell the viewers why.
Maybe in the next freewheeling, we will tell them why.
We have a surprise up our sleeves, folks. Yeah, we are reaching.
Yeah.
We are reaching. Bhargavi is reaching escape velocity out of India.
Java Capital is reaching escape velocity.
Okay.
But this is this space tech developments, right, is all the more impressive because they're able to do this at a fraction of the cost, if you will. Right? I mean, if you look at Elon Musk's SpaceX, right? I mean, the amount of money that has gone into it, the scale, it's just tremendous. So the frugality that ISRO was popular for, right? I think it's spreading across this startup ecosystem as well, and it's just amazing. I think a big shout out to IIT Madras as well, right? To be able to support some of these space tech startups at in the earlier stages. Any thoughts on that? Either you or Bhargavi?
Yeah, I mean, simple, Karthik. They have created the ecosystem for you. You are not going and creating every new thing, right? Like, so ISRO, for example, has provided the range safety kit to Agnikul. That's also was on the Twitter, if you notice, right? Basically, that range safety kit is to ensure that the rocket, basically, once it's flying, if it is in danger of falling within the vicinity or within the Indian landscape, they'll have the option to terminate, and that's provided by ISRO in a way. I mean, why is ISRO sharing technology? Two, look at fuel. All fuel is manufactured by a private company, let's say, and some of them in Hyderabad. That is created by ISRO, right? That ecosystem was created by ISRO. ISRO has been using this for the last 50 to 70 years, right? And all those private players you have access to because there's an ecosystem that's built. And I think all of these companies cannot, be built straight away, right? There is an ecosystem that using. I mean, SpaceX also would have done the same. Ecosystem would have been used. NASA's ecosystem would have been used. The same thing's happening here. There is an ecosystem which ISRO has built over the years, and that
Yeah,
ecosystem.
this is the true meaning of acceleration.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this takes time. I think that's what, when me and Vinod, we talk to LPs also, we often say, you need to take such bets. Otherwise, no point in being a VC, right? That's what I fundamentally believe. You should have that audacity and to take a couple of such bets and support cutting edge technologies to come in, right? I think it is very happy to see more institutions now coming in to back such founders. So now founders can think more audaciously, even in India, which was not present probably 15 years back.
Yeah, forget 15, 5 years back, they were not present, Bhargavi. Yeah.
Speaking of audacity, right, I think the next real big area that needs audacious innovation, right, is climate tech, right, with the climate change. And, it's obvious what are all the effects of climate change, right, whether you believe in it or not, or you want to do it for different reasons, right. It's obvious the effects that we see in countries like Pakistan with the floods this year. It's just devastating. So, I think slowly but surely, the startup ecosystem is also waking up to um, climate tech and coming up with solutions there as well. And I know you're going to be speaking at one such summit, right? So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, let me start with an interesting sarcastic note also, which I got in the morning, right? Somebody was telling if 2021 was about Web3 and crypto and all that, right? 2022 seems to have been, at least the second half of 2022, has been all about climate and sustainability. And I only see that continuing in 2023. I don't see why it's not going to continue. And in a recessionary environment globally, right, people will be thinking, what can we do to save the world? I mean, so I'm also assuming that also puts them, everybody to think, okay, how do we think about the global play? But I think it's come to a massive awareness levels which we've never seen on climate tech. I mean, forget the era of 2000 clean tech era between 2000 and 2008, where Kleiner Perkins deployed a massive amount of capital and, got it completely wrong.
Mm.
And also this question keeps getting asked, is this like version 2 of that? And most people are saying, look, this is not version 2. There's a lot more awareness. And there are a lot more people willing to, buy this story now, compared to, that era in the 2000 to 2008.
And I think there is a lot more technological advancements also now.
Absolutely. Material science advantages, technological advancements. I mean, phone was not that prevalent at that time, so you can track your carbon footprints. There's so much of data and there is so much of computing power that's available today. So we are able to track a lot of things which we were not able to track in, say, 2000, right? So that kind of lends itself, Karthik, to a new wave of companies. And climate tech, right, again, Karthik, will be like, I mean, when I say like Web3, right, I'm only comparing it as a horizontal. Okay. Um, think about like technology as horizontal, computers. It's the same thing, in climate tech, right? You'll talk about climate tech for retail individuals, climate tech for companies, climate tech for offices, climate tech for every piece possible in the ecosystem, right? I think that's what it's kind of emerging into. So, how do you become sustainable in every aspect of life in some sense? That will be truly the direction to go, I think. And this event is that's happening over the weekend is an attempt, Karthik, to try and understand how startups are performing, and also each of us are going to talk about captain one of the topics, and talk about that and get a better understanding of what is happening. We have some exciting, both investors, founders, and industry experts. Again, IIT Madras is involved along with EAI, the Energy Consortium from IIT Madras. It is, actually, how we even got into this, right? Actually, we wanted to just attend the event and eventually got into actually being a part of the event, given that we are also investing in climate companies and we're looking at it closely. Bhargavi is also part of something to do with climate. Maybe she can talk about that also. And I think Java Capital as such is looking at it very closely to see how it pans out for all of us. And I think it's a long term. Unlike Web3 crypto, I'm more gung-ho that this is going to last a long, long time to come. Yeah. Bhargavi, over to you. Yes.
Yeah, I think absolutely right. I think from Java side, it's at least two of us who have started looking at different segments. As you can see, even in the event, right? Climate is a very very vast area, and some people tell that there are 23, 24 subtopics under climate, which somebody can look at and dive deeper into. Right? I think still, but as I research more and as I build our thesis more in it, what I realize is in India we have just started scratching the surface, and it's still probably unviable if a company is looking just at Indian market and building something. This has to be a global solution because it's also interconnected across different countries and geographies. But I think specifically from a venture investor point of view in India, it's still going to be a little tricky, or I think we may still have to make those mistakes and learn from that and go through a cycle. It's because it's very nascent. I think it will evolve and maybe become more mainstream with probably early winners. In my view, in another couple of years, at least for the Indian startup ecosystem. But it's great. We have seen now so many climate focused funds which have come out in the country. Large capital set aside for supporting entrepreneurs working on this. So excited, Vinod, excited to see the kind of founders you'll probably meet there, and see if we can support one or two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think should be pretty exciting. We'll keep you posted and beam out of Chennai.
Yeah,
What's
yeah. When are you
happening.
leaving for
Yeah.
Chennai? Today?
Tomorrow. We should see some action there.
Okay.
Yes.
So the session is tomorrow, and then you'll be part of the greenhouse gas emission control panel, correct?
Yes, the GSG management. Actually, it's a very overarching topic, because you're talking about how do you make carbon footprint management for organizations, right? Pretty much, this is the heart of the what you call the UN's guidelines, right? To get to net zero. Uh, that is really the place, frankly. It basically talks about very closely linked to carbon. How do you really capture? It's like almost an umbrella topic, if you ask me. It pretty much you can play across wherever you want in those places. Carbon sinks, catalysts, in vehicles, wherever you can reduce emissions, of all the six gases that are responsible for, or the greenhouse
Mm.
gases, which are responsible for climate change, right? I mean, that is where GHG management is literally about. So interesting topic, good learning. I've also been learning, all along. I think that's the fun part of being a venture capitalist, right? You are always learning something new, and on the cusp of finding something you really didn't understand earlier. That's the exciting part. So I like this action. Let's see. We'll go deeper as we go along over the next year. Yeah.
Okay, Karthik, have we covered everything in the agenda, or do you have anything else?
No, I think we should also cover some fun, guys. Let's cover some fun stuff. I have some couple of
Yeah,
recommendations.
one fun stuff is my background. See, I am like, oh my god, why is Karthik projecting me today and showing? I don't have cool backgrounds like how you people are sitting on. I have a carton box and some great wall paintings behind me.
Okay, I have some fun stuff, frankly. So, Karthik, you should also announce, if you want, some Black Friday deals on this company. Okay, you should put it out. Okay, people should, I can't. Okay, I'll have to put it right in my face. Maybe, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
you put some Black Friday deals on that, Karthik. And two, other fun stuff is I've been listening to. I watched finally Bhargavi Ponniyin Selvan one on
Oh, okay.
TV. um, I mean, didn't come back very impressed. Okay, because I mean, it's like I actually have this funny question, right? Why did it take us all these years to make that movie? Yeah, I mean, we could have done that movie long ago. I don't understand why it took like almost 7 decades to make that movie. I think it could have been made, in whichever form. It need not have been so
Yeah, yeah.
extravagant.
If somebody had watched Chandralekha, which was made very very old movie. I encourage people to just Google Chandralekha old movie, and there is a dance which is very popular with zero technology. The way
Huh.
they have shot that single song, I think this movie could have been made. I think the issue was how do you tweak the original novel, which is a five-part novel, into a movie? And then I think they have done a lot of tweaks. So it is a culture shock for somebody like me who has read that novel and then everything is changed here. But I think that was the main challenge.
There's
Then
always
eventually, eventually
no you
somebody did it.
no if you I mean 2000, right, early 2000s when I was in college, right, like Harry Potter, you read something and see in the movie, but if you've seen the movie first, right, but you could relate, it's exactly like that to me. I'm actually listening to the book now on Audible, to the book, and I've good chunk of the first part I've covered, and I can sense, how much they can cover in the movie, and they've tried to cover it to lend it to itself to a movie. There's nothing else that you can do, I feel. But actually speaking, I'd be more excited if somebody produces a series on Ponniyin Selvan. That might be
Yeah.
much more interesting. Where Netflix.
With technology, because see, I think in the movie they probably didn't use the technology that well. I was not impressed with the tech use, right? So
I
if
think it
somebody can
was.
spend money and build a Netflix series, putting in some capital and technology, then maybe yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it could be interesting. That's
Netflix,
what I
are
can
you
see.
hearing? Maybe your revamp in India, South India at least.
Oh, Netflix should hear us now. The finance ministry is done. Read Hastings, please do hear us. Here's the request. For doing Ponniyin Selvan as a series, two season or a three season, four season also is fine. 5 season also is fine. Yeah, please do hear us out. Yeah. Anyway, this is yeah. Shout out for these guys. They're giving some interesting deals, guys. Black Friday 30. Order your
EP Classic
healthy
got
ladus.
really Black Friday 30%.
Black Friday. Yeah, 30% off. Spread the word. Yeah, order. Ah, so this is what VCs eat. Okay, if you are also want to eat what VCs eat, please do. Yeah. So Karthik, one last thing, right? Another interesting bunch of stuff. We should give I want to give a commitment here. Our first newsletter will go out on in December. Watch out for if somebody wants to sign up. Go to our website. We'll have a link up soon. If you want to get onto our newsletter, it will start as a bi-monthly. Bi-monthly means once in 2 months to start with before we can ramp up the frequency of it. But that's something which is up for. It has got an interesting name, Karthik. The newsletter has got an interesting name. Okay, connected to again Java, coffee, and all that stuff. I think it's a funky newsletter. It's not like a drab newsletter. We're trying to make it really funky one with lots of color. Hopefully, it reflects some of what we do, like in freewheeling in our newsletter also. But an attempt we can improve on. But it should go out in and hopefully some of our interns and analysts are listening. Because we've given a commitment so that it goes out. Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think on
Watch
that
this process.
commitment,
Get the remaining work done. Yeah.
nice way to get stuff done.
Yeah.
This is the same strategy that people who are chain smokers, right, actually use it. They go and announce to all the people saying that, hey, look, I'm gonna quit smoking. So people will hold them responsible and accountable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. First week we go out. Let's see. Dates fixed. Yes. Okay. Anything else,
All right,
Karthik?
I think no, I think that's pretty much it. Vinod, Party, this is great. Once again, this is a recording session, so we won't be able to react to any comments live, but keep them coming. We're going to be posting it today at 5 p.m. That is November 25th, 5 p.m. The attempt is to do it live every week in case, because of the scheduling conflicts, we may not be able to do it every week. In those cases, we'll pre-record this session and then put it out there for you guys to enjoy. All right, on that note, thank you so much, Bhargavi. And I know, Bhargavi, you have a lot of packing to
Yeah,
do.
we'll see.
Anyway,
We'll
just
see
get it done.
Bhargavi on the other side of seven seas. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you.
you.
All right, bye. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye bye.